Hello there, Bees and Bookworms. Hello there, Bees and... Hello there. Device playing up. Don't worry, just a little wrinkle in time, like Spence experiences in The Eternal Return of Clara Hart. You're in for a treat today, Book Bees. This is one of the best novels Bees and Bookworms have ever reviewed.
Hi guys, it's Sarah. The Eternal Return of Clara Hart by Louise Finch focuses on James Spencer, or Spence, who is stuck reliving the same day 10 times, doing it differently each time. When a wild party at his friend Anthony's house leads to the death of his classmate Clara Hart, Spence is stuck reliving the same day again and again, until eventually, after what feels like an eternity, he is able to break free and seize the light of tomorrow. The Eternal Return of Clara Hart was nominated for the Carnegie Book Award 2023, which recognises outstanding writing and illustrations in children's books. Novels that are shortlisted for the Carnegie Award often become timeless classics, and we think The Eternal Return of Clara Hart is well deserving of this accolade. The cover of the book is pretty striking. You see, you can't miss it. We loved that it stood out not only from the Carnegie shortlist but also from the library shelves. They say not to judge a book by its cover, but in this case, the writing is just as good as the packaging. We also loved how the blurb foreshadows Spencer's day repeating. The book was likely inspired by the MeToo movement as it grapples with issues such as sexual assault, toxic masculinity and rape culture in schools. At first we were concerned these topics would be handled badly, but thankfully we were proved wrong because the themes in this book are handled very sensitively. Warning, if you're likely to be affected by these themes, proceed with caution, and if you're under 13, we appreciate your enthusiasm but come back in a couple of years. We admired the fact that despite the book repeating the same day over and over, the author kept it unique, and in our opinion it didn't get boring. Finch has Spence deal with each day a different way, trying his hardest to get out of the endless cycle. There was a worry amongst the Hive that Spence would fall into the category of white knighting, but we were delighted to see that he was called out. In Groundhog Day, the main character Phil Connors escapes the loop by winning the affections of Rita, the love interest. It would have been extremely easy for Finch to have Spence swoop in and save Clara through romance. However, much like life, the plot was not that simple. Spence took accountability for his actions and realised that the problem was much deeper than just preventing Clara's assault. Due to this, Spence is redeemed and, as Clara put it, back to acceptable human being status. On the other hand, we felt it was too easy for Spence to turn Anthony in once he was aware of the extent of his crimes. Even though Anthony was allegedly a good friend and had kept in contact with Spence after his mum's death, he didn't remember the 1-year anniversary. Ultimately, Anthony wasn't a true friend and didn't actually care about Spence. We feel like the book would have had a greater impact if Spence had to grapple with the internal conflict of turning in a friend who was actually there for him. However, we know that the book is aimed at young adults and it must make the message clear or people might misinterpret it and sympathise with Anthony instead of looking at his actions. The sexual assault scenes were portrayed realistically but also sensitively, which we appreciated. The book handled issues such as breaking silences and accountability very well and got the message across clearly. Although the book has its minor flaws and weaknesses, it took us at Bees and Bookworms a very long time to come up with them. Now with our strengths and weaknesses out of the way, it's time for a quick history lesson. The book is heavily inspired by the MeToo movement. The term MeToo was first coined by black activist Tamara Burke in 2006 to raise awareness of sexual abuse and assault in society. In 2017, after the Harvey Weinstein scandal, actress Alyssa Milano posted on Twitter, "If all the women who have been sexually harassed or assaulted wrote MeToo as a status, we might give people a sense of the magnitude of the problem," which prompted replies from many high-profile celebrities such as Jennifer Lawrence, Gwyneth Paltrow, Ashley Judd and Uma Thurman. Widespread media coverage and discussions about sexual harassment, especially in Hollywood, led to high-profile terminations. The 2017 hashtag gained traction after the scandal. In October 2017, there were sexual abuse allegations against Weinstein by more than 80 women. As early as 1998, Gwyneth Paltrow joked that Weinstein will coerce you to do a thing or two. It was seen as kind of an inside joke in Hollywood, with Seth MacFarlane joking while announcing the 2013 Best Supporting Actress Academy Award.
Congratulations, you 5 ladies no longer have to pretend to be attracted to Harvey Weinstein.
Because no one would go on record, nothing could be done. In 2015, after 22-year-old model Amber Giras accused Weinstein of inappropriately touching her, tabloids presented her as an opportunist. In the same year, despite the advice of local police, Manhattan District Attorney Cyrus Vance Jr. decided not to file charges against Weinstein. In The Eternal Return of Clara Hart, we similarly see that there is a culture of silence within the school that enables Anthony to get away with his appalling behaviour towards women, even though people are uncomfortable with the way he talks about girls. Anthony besmirches the character of those he hurts, which makes it more difficult for victims of his abuse to stand up and feel like they will be believed. It's easier for them to remain silent than to be ostracised by their community and further hurt by Anthony. Like the MeToo movement, it takes me and Spence standing up and calling out Anthony to inspire real change. A 2018 Washington Post article claimed that a smaller percentage of women experienced sexual coercion or unwanted sexual attention in 2018 compared to 2016, but there was an increase in subtle behaviour such as jokes. In An Eternal Return of Clara Hart, we see the innocent banter between the lads at school, which enables Anthony to justify his actions and downplay their severity later on in the book. Fortunately, it also reveals that after the MeToo movement, 19 states have enacted sexual harassment protections for victims, and 200 bills have been passed against sexual harassment. Similarly, we see Spence and me at the end of the book publicising the text in the boys' group chats to raise awareness and prevent things like that from happening again, just like the silence breakers. It also does mention the risks of reporting, but encourages people to speak out about their experiences. We love that this book encourages people to do the right thing. Hopefully it will stop sexual harassment and abuse and fill the guilty with shame. If you thought that this was a lot, just buckle in, because I'm going to pass over to Emily, who's going to talk about misogyny.
Men are like sharks. When they smell the scent of their prey, they can't stop themselves. Their urges are too strong. It's not their fault. Nothing is ever a man's fault. Many women have tried to explain what it's like to experience misogyny to their male counterparts. What if it was your mother, sister, cousin, or Catherine down the road who works at Co-op, who holds her keys between her hands like knives because she's too scared to walk alone? I'm sure I'm not the first to state that if men can only relate to a woman through blood or friendship, it shows that men lack basic empathy. Sorry, not all men. Suffice to say that not all wasps will sting me, but if I see one, I will be running for the bug spray in a heartbeat. In the words of Matt Lubchansky, one man hears the sound of reverse misogyny, becomes the defender of the defended, and a voice for the voiceful, desperate to interrupt and play devil's advocate, despite the fact that no one asked. Men became enraged at the mention of their own male privilege, trying to deflect by belting, "No men!" to any unfortunate soul who'll listen. Nobody insinuated it was all men in the first place. How can 1 out of 4 women have experienced sexual violence and some men still refuse to acknowledge that there is a problem? How can this happen? Why do some men assault? There is no simple answer. Misogyny and rape culture is so ingrained into our society that to propose a simple answer is beyond unfathomable. The Eternal Return of Clara Hart displays an incredibly moving and perceptive insight into the topic at hand, with a goal of taking down misogyny and toxic masculinity. Before discussing the book itself, it's important to familiarise ourselves with the 2 main branches of misogyny: casual and overt. To start with, casual misogyny is your typical boys will be boys behaviour. This can be anything into, but not limited to, mansplaining, catcalling, rating like Anthony and others do throughout the book. These actions, when confronted, are generally easy to brush off as joking or friendly actions that women should count themselves lucky to be on the receiving end of. Not really. The latter, overt misogyny, is where casual misogyny takes a violent turn, with assault, rape, and murder. The mistake most of us make is separating the two into black and white without a second thought as to how they link. Casual misogyny leads directly into overt misogyny because the casual misogynists enable the overt. Human beings are, for the most part, inherently wired to want to follow the societal norm. That's why most teen movies are about fitting in. If casual misogynists continue to produce media that caters to the male gaze, ingrains the boys will be boys mentality, and enables harassment and violence towards women without condemning the perpetrator, overt misogynists will believe that behaviour is not only normal, but justified. Throughout the novel, Finch presents us with several tropes which are represented for each male character. Each is fully realised and nuanced. Anthony is blatantly the antagonist of the novel. However, he is not malevolent, nor does he plan his evil schemes for his grandiose suburban house. Finch humanises him, implying that his father had taught him his misogynistic attitudes through his derogatory treatment of women. This in no way excuses his actions. In the words of our Lord and Saviour, Daniel Sloss, it is very easy not to sexually assault someone. I know. Groundbreaking news. Had Spencer not reported Anthony, his family's wealth and status would have enabled him to continue worming his way, no pun intended, into the lives of women with the intention of harming them for his own sexual gratification, with most likely no repercussions. As Sarah has mentioned previously, Weinstein's sexual abuse of his female employees went unreported for decades because of his status in Hollywood. The most awful thing about our society is that this is an extremely common occurrence outside the world of literature, and that things like wealth and social class deeply affect how likely it is for a case to go to court. Many people derive their morals from the books they read. This is why it is so integral that Finch creates relatable and realistic characters. Without them, the book completely falls apart. To paraphrase a famous apologue, a frog jumps out of boiling water immediately. If you heat it up slowly, it doesn't realise. Let me explain. If Spence was the perfect man, he wouldn't be compelling. Other flawed men reading the book are ideally supposed to grow alongside Spence, which wouldn't be possible if he were without flaws. This introduces us to another two concepts, the real man versus the good man. Anthony is an example of the real man, and I say that in air quotes because there is no such thing as the real man. The real man is a term coined for what is societally expected for a man. Anthony is rich, attractive, charismatic, whilst also being aggressive, a player, and violent. This is shown in the fight scene on the stairs in which Spence confronts Anthony, when Anthony is manhandling and incapacitated Clara into his bedroom. Upon the confrontation, Anthony strikes Spence. This act of violence solidifies Anthony into the toxic trope of the real man. Spence, on the other hand, is the good man. He's empathetic, willing to change, and has the want to change others for the better. He is, as we've mentioned, flawed, but ultimately can take accountability and contributes to breaking the cultural silence at his school by leaking the vile misogynistic messages that were sent amongst the rugby group chat at the risk of his own reputation. Most significantly, Finch never portrays this as a heroic action, rather something he must do because it's inherently the right thing to do. After all, the most helpful way a man can help the feminist movement is just by being a good person. The Eternal Return of Clara Hart covers hard-hitting themes that all of us will undoubtedly have to deal with at some point in our lives. Perhaps through our own experiences, those of our friends, and others. Finch's novel has delivered a strong moral message without ever being preachy for its likeable and nuanced characters. All we can say is, for the love of God, read this book!
As you can tell, we at Bees and Bookworms absolutely loved this book, and Emily found it difficult to find any faults at all. We felt it was a very profound book with an important message that should be shared. Of course, the book discusses some heavy topics such as sexual assault, so we urge younger children to proceed with caution. But apart from that, we feel it's a message that everybody should hear.
Now that we've broken a time loop, we want to thank you for watching the video. We'd love to hear some of your thoughts on the book down in the comments. Please feel free to buzz over to the subscribe button. We know you'll really miss us, but we'll be back in September to discuss more controversial topics.
Bye bye!